Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the show for leaders who want real results, not more noise. Join Emmanuel Rose as he helps business builders turn AI from a confusing add-on into a practical advantage with clearer messaging, stronger trust, and smarter systems. If you felt a shift happening in real time, you're not imagining it. In the agentic pivot, Emmanuel calls it the move from experimenting with AI to building with it, so it supports your team, your brand, and your growth. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI. I'm Emmanuel Rose, and my guest today is Jason Willis-Lee, a MedCom specialist and audience building strategist with 26 years translating clinical science for patients, clinicians, and global stakeholders. With clinical training from Bristol Medical School and deep experience in clinical trial communication, Jason blends translation, trust building, storytelling, and digital-first community design to improve recruitment, retention, and engagement. We'll dig into how those capabilities and AI can make patient communications clearer, fairer, and more effective. Jason, thanks so much for spending some time with me today.
Emmanuel, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I'm interested to hear how this wave of AI has impacted the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. I think AI has had a big impact on my industry, on the language services industry. But you know what, Emmanuel? AI tends to commoditize the middle and not the edges. So it commoditized the generic translation. So if you go premium, which is linguistic validation, then you need a human. You need a human to do the cognitive debriefing, to interview patients. So I think you have a chance if you really niche down and go premium. So I would say AI raises the floor, but staying human raises the ceiling. That's the way I would describe what we're living at the moment.
I understand. And so talk a little bit about what a typical engagement looks like for you, Jason.
Yeah, so a linguistic validation project is a full cycle forward translation, 2 times, 1 back translation. Then there's a reconciliation, a comparison with the original language. There's a cognitive debriefing, which is in-field testing of at least 5 patients of the instrument to make sure they've understood it. Maybe a physician review, and then all that goes into the pot, which is a linguistic validation report. And that is sent to the client. It's typically a contract research organization. It's a pharma company, a biotech company, Emmanuel. And these projects sell for up to $3,000 per language. And we're talking about, multilingual 20 to 40 languages per project. So it's a lucrative business. And that's what I'm pivoting my services business into, away from translation.
Okay, so that's interesting. I guess how do you weave in what we could call traditional storytelling with a narrative and the hero's journey and positive or negative denouement? How do you weave that into the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I think storytelling, especially visual storytelling, is a very powerful tool. So I would use this more on the consultancy side for example, I just worked on a poster with a 7-figure business who had a poster presentation at Harvard University. So we used a very visual storytelling process in Google Notebook LM. It's now got a beta function for infographics and for slide decks. So that's what we did. Yeah, I think storytelling is it's more for personal branding. So when I work with freelancers and consultants, freelance translators, I'd like them to try and lean into their personal branding story, which is basically telling their own story, because that's something that can't be replicated, right? Your life and my life are, inimitable. And if we all lean into our own stories, I think that's the best form of branding there is. And that's the moats. The last competitive moat we have now, Emmanuel, is staying human and returning to real.
Yeah, that is an interesting conundrum that we've created in this blast of AI slop and the capacity for really anybody with a computer and a little bit of training to generate content. And I wonder what's it like. Are there certain tools that you're using, and how are you making sure that you're holding the Jason Willis-Lee voice in the work that you're producing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my favorite LLM is Claude Pro. I just like Claude Pro. I actually think free Claude is better than paid GPT. That's just my opinion. But I use AI for research, for drafting, for structuring. But then the actual human elements of the work, the cognitive debriefing, the actual coaching calls, that's all human. So I think I have a little framework, an authority framework, and I know you've spoken about frameworks. The E of the bridge actually is using AI for efficiency. I like to teach people to use it for efficiency. It is increasing productivity, and theoretically you can do the work faster. So I don't accept the argument that the machines are taking work from translators. I think you can do the work faster. Yes, there's less volume, there's downward pressure on rates, but you can actually, you can still make money selling time. So, I think if you adopt this hybrid approach, which I know you've spoken about because I had a look at your website and you had a recent speaking engagement, and it's this sort of hybrid between, leveraging AI and just having this cap that says "stay human" on it or something similar to "stay human," and that's the premium. The last competitive moat we have is just you and me. It's just being Emmanuel Rose, being Jason Willis-Lee, and our voice and our brand and our frameworks. That's, I think, what the differentiator is.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And what we're seeing in the studies is that about a third of people's workday or work week is what I just call clicking around, right? Where you're really doing these, you're doing activities that the Claude should be doing for you, right? And in that you don't need to click into a CSV to copy and paste into a report, for instance. So if we can eliminate, and if we have the opportunity to eliminate that clicking around and what is basically wasted time, then it frees us up to be doing the important things like having conversations, being creative, being strategic, or taking on another discipline, right? Like I'm learning to play the guitar now. I don't know that I would have ever had, I never would have had time if I hadn't been able to partition out and carve out some activities that software can do for me now in a meaningful way.
Yes. Yeah, that's incredible. I think it is freeing up time. So it's a force multiplier. It's basically using AI for productivity reasons. So that's the E of the bridge, efficiency. It's great you're finding time to learn. I'd love to learn the guitar. I love Spanish guitar, so that's maybe something you've given me an idea there. I play the piano, but yeah, I think I think AI is here and obviously galloping forwards. I think I don't think we're paying hundreds of billions of dollars into these data centers in your area of the world, in North America. I don't think this $20 a month model is sustainable. I think it will be $200 a month in a few years, maybe by 2020. So I think there's a shock we're going to get. I'm getting my $20 worth. I'm telling you, I'm just hammering the AI every day in, day out. I've got my projects on Claude. I've used it builds documents for me and all these things. So I don't know. It's an interesting space. We're obviously supervising a lot of machine output. So medical reports and things like that. I think confidentiality is a big issue. I don't think you'd be happy about your personal data going into an LLM. I wouldn't. So I think you've got to be careful of redacting those kinds of things. I see a lot of sensitive medical reports, particularly from the Middle East and in the pediatric hospital in Barcelona. So, you have to be sensible. As you say, the real work is the networking in the room, getting yourself into the right room and meeting the right people, and the content creation. It's basically building the content that gives the business visibility, right?
Yeah. I'm curious, have you worked at all, done any testing in the Google Protocol Notebook, and what was your experience like in that?
I've done some Google. So I use Google Notebook LM for a couple of things. I use it to transcribe coaching calls, and I have used it to transcribe podcast episodes. But
Okay.
now I'm in a phase of coaching calls. I recently used it to build a poster for a client presenting at Harvard University. And I saw a beta function. Actually, the client told me that Google Notebook has a beta function for infographics and slide decks. And I didn't know that. So we built a very nice visually storytelling. I sent him a very bland poster, which he really wasn't happy with. It wasn't very aesthetic. It was too textual. So he wanted some storytelling, and we got him a much better copy in Google Notebook LM, just on the free version. Didn't spend any money. It spent about 150 euros on a graphic designer, and we got him a much better result and outcome for free, actually. So I was quite happy with that, and I hope that beta goes alpha, and it was a very interesting experience. But I think all these tools are competing with each other. I try and keep up to date with there's so many changes, it's very difficult to keep up to date, right? But yeah, that was an interesting feature of Notebook LM that I discovered, to help me build a nice infographic.
Yeah, it is. What I found is that we can build stuff in Notebook LM and then can export it into Canva, and Canva has a way to separate the layers, so you can make the adjustments to the images that are created in Notebook LM that you want, that it doesn't totally understand. So it's a little bit of a connected activity in order to get exactly what you want.
Yeah, that's I love Canva. Canva is an amazing design tool. I didn't know they were connected in that way. That's a new one for me. So that would have actually helped me with the poster, because we did a few touch-ups that we could have done in Canva, because there was just a typographical error and things like that. So yeah, the client took his poster to Harvard, did a very nice presentation. He felt over prepared, which I thought was very nice. He told me he felt over prepared, so it went very well. And he's building a little piece of software, Emmanuel, to differentiate in his category. So specifically, one of the human steps in the linguistic validation cycle could actually be shortened with an app, and that is something that we're considering. I think this is something that will come into play in the next 12 to 24 months. So that would probably shoot him to number one in his category.
Nice.
There's one competitor already, which means the category is validated. So I think you just go in and you have to differentiate. I think it's a good news that a category is validated, but with a competitor, you don't want a sort of barren, empty space. You want competitors in there. And that's a very enjoyable customer to work for. I mean, having that kind of access to what is a multi-7-figure business is quite exciting. And he's quite a demanding person, but I enjoy working with him, and that's a very creative partnership.
Yeah, it's interesting. The bigger market is moving away from single wrapper tools that are just wrapped on an LLM that are only doing one thing, and they're moving towards owning the entire process. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see, as we get these more sophisticated tools that maybe are a stem to stern offer for the work that you're doing, right? From intake all the way into reporting. That's where the big money's flowing right now in marketing and other areas. You think that's a possibility that you would see in the next few years?
I think it is. I mean, particularly with inpatient in-field testing of interviews, it's actually the online sync, the offline and online sync, and actually getting that interview down in real time. That's an interesting. We're talking possibly shortening work cycles from several weeks to possibly a few hours if the app works well. So there's an offline-online synchronization issue that has to be dealt with, and transcription, how quickly that is done by the transcription software. So this is an interesting field, and I think apps are chomping up even the last sort of workflows that are performed by humans, and I think apps are coming in now. So I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I think it's just adapting to the times, and I think from here to 2030, we're going to see see some interesting changes, and then 2030 will be a change of decade, and that'll be another ball game once that decade starts.
Yeah, well, I think what do you think? What kind of capabilities do you think the clinical teams should be prioritizing in order to move on in that post 2030 to scale the patient engagement in an ethical way with AI?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think AI has probably seeped more into radiology and diagnostics. I think I think the AI human hybrid is very much a thing in hospitals. And I did some hospital training way back in the day. I started training as a doctor and then got through half my clinical training and switched into applied linguistics. So I would say, radiology, diagnostics, all of those areas are very are already, we're seeing advances in AI. Anything that increases patient engagement. I mean, there is an app by one of your friends I know, which is increasing patient engagement, and that's something that is also for employees and making organizations. So I think organizational efficiency can be improved with apps, and that in real life experiences. And our mutual colleague has a wonderful app with sort of pebbles in a pond, and it's she showed me a little bit of how this works, and that's something very exciting to see that getting into organizations, and how organizational management can be improved, and how patients and employees can improve their engagement and just lead happier, more fulfilled lives. So I think anything an app improves an outcome in our lives, our quality of life, and how better engaged we are, I think that's got to be a win. So it's a win for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. And I have people in my family that are part of the healthcare industry, and I think that it's interesting just to see with the app that Wendy created, and closing that loop between what actually the effects that the medical doctors are having on their patients that are positive, and getting that part of the feedback loop, right? And so that it helps to encourage them to continue to care about being a medical professional.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the medical profession, it's all about the patient. I think I used to work on a lot of documents, articles with SDM, shared decision making, which is doctor-patient communication. It used to be a lot more paternalistic, with the doctor kind of telling the patient what to do. Nowadays, it is very, very mutual, and linguistic validation is actually the opposite. It's all about patient-centric research. And it's all about getting patient feedback in real time. How did you feel about this instrument on type 2 diabetes or depression? Or when was the last time you felt fatigue? And that has to be translated into 20, 40 languages, which is very, very challenging if you think about it, getting the same. It's all about conceptual equivalence. When I say fatigue, it has to mean the same thing in all these different languages. And that's quite challenging. So it's all about the conceptual. It's not about words. It's about psychometric integrity. So I think patient-study research is a fascinating field that I've been getting into, and actually, talking about Wendy's app to a couple of these, big linguistic validation companies. They're big projects, Emmanuel. They're 20 to 40 languages, so it throws up a lot of documentation, and they're big weeks, so 6 to 12 week projects. And if we can build an app to sort of shorten that timeline, then certainly there's money to be made. You can build a minimum viable product and then get something up and running, maybe sell it to one of the big players, and there you are. So I think work is being done, or people are thinking about these types of projects, but ultimately it's the patients that counts, right? The patient experience. When I was a student doctor, and then I worked in clinical research for a while, it was all about the patient. So I think patient-sided research is now the watchword, and we're seeing some amazing work in that new field.
Yeah, that sounds like it will continue to innovate, which is a positive side of this AI trend. I'm curious, Jason, when you're negotiating where you're going to go for dinner with your family, what language do you speak at home?
That's an easy one. Yeah, so I speak Spanish with my wife, and I speak English with my daughter. So I think my wife understands English very passively. Our active English is not so good, but usually Spanish with her and English with my teenage daughters.
I love it. And if you could learn and converse in one language, which one would it be?
I was thinking of Esperanto as the sort of international language, but I guess it's got to be English. I mean, most of my business is conducted in English, and I'm writing a bit of Spanish, occasionally in French, but it's mainly Spanish and English. I would choose English every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
All right. And do you have any languages that you're hankering to learn that you haven't learned yet?
Well, I'm learning German as my third foreign language. My German is very school-leaving standard, so I'm sort of, I really, to get good at a language, you really have to go to the source language country, Emmanuel, and spend some time in complete immersion and put the news on, read the papers, and that's the way to learn fast. So my German is a bit stagnant. I'd love to learn an exotic language like a bit of Chinese, or I have friends who go to China. They tell me there's very little English in China. It's very, very Hermetic. It's very, even the international hotels, they don't speak English. So you have to have some kind of Chinese or some kind of translator, some kind of app to just survive. Otherwise, you won't understand what the food is on the menu. So, some kind of exotic language. But yeah, Duolingo is just a fun sort of hobby. German, sort of unfinished school German type of thing for me. And if I can make it more exotic, then so be it. Yeah.
Ausgezeichnet. Vielen Dank für deinen Time. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I'm interested to hear how some of these tools that you're working on come out, and love to have another conversation with you later in the year.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today, Emmanuel. Thank you.
All right, well, appreciate it. Thanks, Jason. Well, it's interesting to get a view of what is happening in a complex ontological situation where you have 20 to 40 languages that have to be accounted for, and how AI is supporting that activity. I hope you enjoyed the conversation that I had with Jason today. And if you have language translation projects or medical and language projects, Jason's information will be in the show notes. Also, hope that you take some time to spend with an LLM and look at your workload and find that 30% of your workday that is just clicking around, and you can figure out, with the help of the LLM, how to save time in your workday. And with that time, you continue to upskill, that you spend it with your friends and family, and that you get outside into nature, away from the screens. This is Emmanuel Rose, Marketing in the Age of AI.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.